Japan has extremely low crime rates. However, there is a dark side to their justice system. Recently, The Economist looked into that justice system, and here's what they found.
Kazuo Ishikawa was convicted of murder in 1964. He signed a confession statement after 30 days of interrogation, even though he was illiterate at the time.
私はサインしたことに、私はサインしなかったら犯人にならなかったんですから、それに対してはもう24歳になってるんですから、いかにその取り調べがきつかったとしても、無実の者が、自分がやりましたというはずがないので、その言ってしまったということに対しては、自分を含めて国民の皆さんにも申し訳ないと、そのことに対しては今でもそれは心の葛藤があって、自分を常に責めております。
Okay, so I'm going to give you some more information about their justice system, some stats that'll blow you away. But before I get to that, I just have to make a comment about Japanese culture. It's incredible. He was forced or coerced into confessing for a crime that he didn't commit. And in that interview, he's like, I must apologize to the people of Japan. No! The justice system of Japan should apologize to you. They took years away from your life for a crime that you didn't commit. Japanese culture is so fascinating.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the power of culture is interesting. We're so much more individualistic here in the U.S. We feel like, well, the system did us wrong. He looks at it and goes, I'm sorry for letting you guys down. And there's a really interesting element to that, which is that you're not going to catch the right guy if he confesses to the crime.
Right.
Now, it's not his fault. They definitely coerced him into it, almost tortured him into it. So it is the fault of the prosecutors, the cops, everybody who was involved. But they should also realize that every time they do that, they let the person who actually did the crime get away with it scot-free.
That's exactly right. So what usually tends to happen is if someone gets accused and prosecuted of a crime, more than likely that person is going to confess to the crime even if he or she didn't commit it, okay? So according to The Economist, some suspects will falsely admit guilt just to end a stressful interrogation, and interrogations in Japan can be very stressful. Police and prosecutors may hold ordinary criminal suspects for up to 23 days without charge. Interviews can last for 8 hours or more. Suspects are deprived of sleep and forced into physically awkward positions. Now, again, confessions underpinned 89% of criminal prosecutions in 2014. 99.8% of prosecutions end in a guilty verdict.
That's unbelievable.
It's an incredible stat.
And that's part of also, I think, goes to the culture of a community, which is if these respected leaders in the community, including the prosecutors, have brought this person forward as a defendant, well, he's very likely to be guilty. So it's, a lot more authoritarian in that sense. We must do right for the community, yada, yada. Look, there's great upsides to being more communitarian and caring about one another. But to give up your individualism to this degree and your judgment to this degree is deeply problematic. So I can guarantee you that 99.8% of the defendants up there were not all guilty, but they got convicted anyway.
Yeah.
So, and look, this whole idea, and we did it here in Guantanamo Bay, let alone Bagram Air Base and all the other places that we did it, of not letting the defendants sleep, and then some physical force was used against them, like they would hit their feet, they'd hit them with a table, and they do all these things as we did. Obviously, the U.S. in its torture of detainees took it a whole nother step. But it leads to false confessions. So if you actually care about justice and you're mad at what happened to the victims, you're not doing them any favors by doing this kind of torture and coercion because you're likely to get the wrong person.
Exactly. Yeah, the guilty person's out there free, probably harming other people.
Now, I think that the homicide rate of Japan is not necessarily related to these tactics.
Right.
So some people will use that as a justification for this when in fact there are a great number of factors that go into that. But the homicide rate of Japan is incredibly low. Intentional homicide rate was 0.3 per 100,000 people. In America, it's 4.7 per 100,000 people.
It's amazing.
0.3 versus 4.7. I got one more for you. And this is another huge factor. Japan's gun homicide rate was 0.01 per 100,000 people. In America, it was 3.5. That is a difference of 350 times. So
the problem in
our rate of gun homicides in America is 350 times greater per capita than Japan's.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing that Japan did is they ensured that every single person living in the country had a firearm. And that actually decreased gun violence, you know?
Oh, right.
In the U.S., we just need to increase the number of firearms and we'll be fine.
They did the opposite. They have very strict gun control. They don't let people have guns. And guess what? People don't die in gun homicides. We let everybody have guns, and our gun homicides are 350 times greater than Japan's. It's not rocket science to figure out what the real issue is.